Wife called it one night of closure with her dream man. Husband turned it into her lifetime of regret. The fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate, sending a rib bone flying like a war casualty. Figures. I finally ordered barbecue ribs at a fancy steakhouse, and now I'm living inside a soap opera. Across the table, Rachel twirled her wedding ring like she was auditioning for America's Got Talent. Best performance in spinning your commitment before shattering it. She'd been doing that more and more lately, and I'd just been dumb enough to think it was stress. Say that again, I croaked, my throat dry as if I'd just swallowed sawdust. The soft jazz behind me sounded like background music for my impending execution. She rolled her eyes like I was the one being unreasonable here. Jonathan, don't be dramatic. It's just one night. Oh, perfect. Just one night. Like a Groupon deal for adultery. She leaned in, voice smooth and casual, as if she was asking me to pass the salt one night with the man I've dreamt about since college. He's famous now, Rachel said, like she was reading a weather report. Oh, sunny skies with a 100% chance of infidelity. I blinked. Famous? What, like internet famous? A cat video with 10 million views. Because I could handle losing to a cat. No, Jonathan. She sipped her wine, calm as a yoga instructor. He's in town, and this is my only chance. You and I were solid. This is just closure. It doesn't mean anything. Closure, I echoed, nodding like a bobblehead. Of course. Totally makes sense. Forget therapy. Who needs counseling when you can just sleep with your celebrity crush? Very affordable, very practical. She finally looked up, her green eyes steady and cold, the kind of look assassins probably give before pulling the trigger. His name is Travis. Oh, wonderful. A name. That makes this all so much more intimate. Travis, should I set him a place at Thanksgiving? Or is he strictly a one-night-only special? Rachel tilted her glass, swirling the wine like she was hosting Master Sommelier Homewrecker Edition. He's that singer I showed you on Instagram last month, remember? I told you I had the biggest crush on him in college before he got famous. Ah, yes, I said, clapping my hands together once. The one with the leather pants, tighter than my student loan payments. Of course I remember. She ignored me, par for the course. He's performing at the Fox Theater tonight, and I messaged him. We've been talking, I swear. The whole restaurant tilted like we were on the Titanic, except I didn't get a life jacket. The clinking of silverware, the laughter from nearby tables, the sizzling from the kitchen, everything faded until all I heard was the pounding in my ears. You've been talking to him, I said slowly, like I was translating from a foreign language, for 3 weeks. Her tone was so matter-of-fact, I half expected her to pull out a calendar and show me the scheduled adultery appointments. 3 weeks, I laughed, more of a wheeze, really. Incredible. I don't even get 3 consecutive weeks of you remembering to put the cap back on the toothpaste. Rachel's eyes lit up, sparkling in a way they hadn't when she looked at me in, well, months. He remembered me from college. Can you believe that? After all these years, Travis Johnson remembered me? Yeah, I muttered. Meanwhile, last week you forgot my birthday until the dog barked at the cake delivery guy. But sure, Travis Johnson gets a standing ovation for his memory. She leaned forward, dreamy, oblivious to the daggers in my words. He's staying at the Ritz tonight, and he invited me up after his show. My world cracked apart like a dropped smartphone screen. Rachel, we're married. I know that. She waved her hand dismissively, like I just reminded her we needed milk from the store. This isn't about us, Jonathan. This is about me finally getting something I've wanted my entire life. I could feel the barbecue sauce drying on my fingers, turning into glue that tethered me to this nightmare. You know how many nights I've dreamed about this man? She pressed on. How many times I've wondered what it would be like to be with someone like him instead of her voice stopped dead, her lips pressing together too late. I leaned forward, my own voice barely audible. Instead of what? Her eyes flickered, betraying just a hint of hesitation before the words came out, sharp and unforgiving. Instead of settling for safe, the words hung in the air like poison. "Look, Jonathan, you're a good husband," Rachel began, and I swear I could already feel the punchline winding up. Compliments before catastrophe, classic move. You pay the bills, you're reliable, you come home every night. I raised my hand like I was at a job interview. So, basically, I'm just a faithful mutt footing the mortgage bill, but she just kept going, steamrolling right over me. But Travis, he's everything I've ever fantasized about. This is my one chance. Oh, terrific. Glad to know my competition is a guy whose greatest skill is making auto-tune falsettos sound deep. She ignored me, reaching into her purse and pulling out her phone. "Here, look." She shoved the screen at me like it was evidence in court. A text thread with more heart emojis than a tween group chat. Midnight timestamps. I miss you sprinkled between can't wait to see you. Meanwhile, I was remembering the last text I got from her earlier this week. Pick up toilet paper. Riveting romance. You've been sexting American Idol reject number 47 while I've been at the office drafting blueprints so you could have granite countertops. I said, my voice a notch higher than usual. "Jonathan," she sighed, "I have to leave now if I'm going to make his show." And just like that, she stood up, smoothing down her black dress, the one she wore on our wedding night. Because why not use nostalgia as a blunt weapon? "Don't wait up," she added breezily. Then she leaned down and kissed my forehead. My forehead like I was a toddler being put to bed early so Mommy could go out with her friends. "Gee, thanks, Mom," I muttered as she strutted off toward the restaurant exit, swaying with the confidence of someone about to collect a Lifetime Achievement Award and betrayal. I sat there, staring at her half-eaten steak, still steaming, but rapidly turning as cold as my marriage. 20 minutes passed. The waiter came over twice, offering dessert menus and coffee. Each time, I just shook my head. Meanwhile, the couple at the next table argued about their teenage daughter's curfew. I almost wanted to lean over and say, "Don't worry, at least your kid's not running off to sleep with Travis Johnson." Count your blessings. Normal problems. Normal marriage disputes. God, I envied them. Finally, I pulled out my phone. My thumb hovered over her contact info before I remembered she'd shared her location with me months ago. For safety, ironic now. The blue dot on my phone screen pulsed like a beacon of betrayal, inching through downtown Atlanta traffic, heading straight for the Fox Theater district, toward Travis Johnson, toward her so-called dream. My phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. "Don't be dramatic about this. I'll be home by morning. We can talk then." "Don't be dramatic," I read aloud, laughing so hard the couple at the next table glanced over. "Right, because your wife's skipping out on your anniversary dinner to sleep with a washed-up boy band reject is just another Tuesday." I deleted the message without replying. No sense wasting thumb energy on someone who'd already given me the middle finger in HD. I paid the bill, tipped the waiter like he deserved hazard pay for witnessing a live-action soap opera, and headed home to our charming two-story colonial in Buckhead. Charming. That's realtor speak for overpriced prison. Inside, every room felt poisoned. The kitchen, where we used to cook Sunday breakfasts. I could still picture her laughing while burning pancakes, swearing it was the stove's fault. All lies, apparently. The living room, where we'd mapped out vacations we never took because she said we needed to save responsibly. Meanwhile, she was out here investing her time in Travis Johnson's DMs. And the bedroom. God, the same bedroom where she told me this morning, that she loved me, which now translated to, "I love you, but I love backstage passes more." I pulled a single suitcase from the closet. Not everything, just essentials. Some clothes, my passport, my toothbrush, and then I reached into the dusty corner where my old photography gear sat like a forgotten relic. Architectural photography equipment I hadn't touched in 4 years because Rachel once said she needed stability, not a husband who lived out of airports. "Yeah, how stable do you feel now, sweetheart?" I muttered, tossing a lens into the case. As I packed, my wallet slipped from the dresser, and out came the business card I'd carried around like a secret wish. Henry Morgan, creative director at Apex Architectural Photography, Denver. He'd slid it to me 3 years ago after I turned down his job offer to stay in Atlanta. "Call me when you're ready to be an artist again," he'd said. Well, better late than never. I thumbed his number and hit dial. "Morgan," a groggy voice answered. "Henry, it's Jonathan Spencer," I said, pacing the room. "Yeah, I know it's late." "Listen, is that position still open?" There was a pause, then laughter. "Jonathan, you finally pulled the trigger. Huh, you could say my wife inspired me," I deadpanned. Not in the way Hallmark cards are written about. But hey, inspiration is inspiration. The conversation lasted 15 minutes. By the end, I had a job starting Monday and a temporary apartment arranged through Henry's connections. Just like that. A whole new life. No Rachel required. I didn't leave a note, didn't explain, didn't even set up mail forwarding. She'd come home expecting to find her safe little husband waiting, and instead she'd find nothing but empty drawers and silence. Instead, I did something else, something that would haunt Rachel for years to come. I went to our home office and began systematically erasing myself from existence. Not dramatic, surgical. First up, social media. I logged into our joint accounts, the ones she loved because they made us look like a picture-perfect couple. Couple goals, vacation photos, anniversary posts, all staged like we were auditioning for a Hallmark movie. With one click, poof, Jonathan Spencer no longer existed. Sorry, Instagram followers, your favorite happily married duo is now just Rachel and her selfies. Next stop, Netflix, petty, maybe, but no way was she keeping my carefully curated continue watching list, delete, Hulu, gone. Spotify family plan. Congratulations, Rachel. You're downgraded to at supported peasant. Then came the joint savings account. Half of it transferred neatly into my personal account. Not stolen, not revenge, just preemptive self-defense. She wanted closure. She could find it with half the cash. 4:47 a.m., my suitcase was in the trunk, my car humming through empty Atlanta streets. Not toward home, not toward her. Toward Hartsfield-Jackson Airport while idling at the departures lane, I booked the earliest flight to Denver. One-way ticket. A one-way ticket to a life that no longer featured me playing the role of reliable background husband in the Rachel show. I didn't look back at the house. Didn't picture Rachel stumbling in, mascara smudged and excuses rehearsed. Didn't imagine her panic when she realized I wasn't just sulking. I was gone. The highway stretched ahead, wide open and quiet. Denver on the horizon, freedom in the distance, while my wife played groupie for a man who wore more eyeliner than she did. And then, 23 a.m., her key in the lock. I wasn't there, but I could picture it. She walked in, hair tangled, dress wrinkled, Travis Johnson's cologne practically radiating off her like a cheap perfume ad. She floated through the door, smug as a cat with feathers stuck in its teeth, already rehearsing the speech she'd give me. "Jonathan." It meant nothing. "Jonathan, we can move forward now." "Jonathan," she probably called out, dropping her purse on the hall table. Silence. She climbed the stairs, expecting me to be sulking in the bedroom. But the bed was untouched, perfectly made, too perfect. Her stomach must have twisted right about then. "Jonathan," louder now. And there it was, our closet door, wide open. Empty hangers swayed in the air-conditioning breeze like little ghosts of my former patients. My side of the dresser cleared out. bathroom counter spotless. Not a razor, not a toothbrush, not even the deodorant she always borrowed and pretended not to. I could almost see her face as she ran through the house in growing panic, opening closets, slamming drawers. Every missing sock and t-shirt was another stab wound. When she hit the home office, oh, that must have been the gut punch. My desk, gone. My computer, gone. Architectural drawings, years of work, gone. Even the photography equipment she told me to let collect dust because stability mattered more, gone too. The room was a crime scene, and the victim was her illusion of control. Then came the inevitable phone call straight to voicemail, because of course I wasn't about to pick up. "Jonathan, what are you doing? Call me back. We need to talk about this like adults." I imagined her pacing with that sharp edge in her voice, the one she usually reserved for when the Wi-Fi was slow. She didn't want to talk like adults. She wanted to talk like Rachel, which meant she spoke, and I nodded. 17 calls followed. 17, each one a little countdown timer to the exact moment she realized this wasn't a tantrum. This was a disappearance by noon. She cracked and drove to my firm downtown. I wish I could have seen her face when she cornered Mike at the front desk. Poor Mike, always polite, always clueless. "Jonathan. He called in sick today. He probably said, scratching his head, said he had food poisoning." "Did he say anything else? Like time off, maybe traveling?" Mike would have blinked, confused. No. He seemed fine yesterday. Mentioned something about updating his portfolio, but that's normal for architects. Translation. Mike had no idea her marriage had been set on fire and left smoldering. She spent the weekend frantically dialing anyone who might have known where I was. My college roommate in Seattle, nope. My sister in Phoenix, no clue. Even our so-called mutual friends, the ones who live for gossip, were genuinely shocked. She must have hated that part, realizing no one was in on the secret. And then came Monday morning, the call that probably made her blood run cold. "Mrs. Spencer," the bank rep's professional voice would have chimed. "We're calling about the joint account withdrawal made Saturday morning. Quite unusual to move that much money on a weekend." What withdrawal? She must have snapped, already tasting vile. $37,000, your husband's signature, all proper documentation. If only I could have seen her hand shaking so hard she almost dropped the phone. That was our entire emergency fund, her little safety net, the money she never once thought about while she was busy planning her big magical night with Travis. She filed a missing person report Tuesday. I wasn't there, obviously, but I can picture the scene like a Netflix crime drama. A detective, weary eyes, coffee breath, notepad in hand. Rachel pouring on the tears, trying to sell him a Lifetime original. The husband who vanished. "Ma'am," he probably said, leaning back with all the patience of a DMV clerk. "Your husband withdrew his own money, took his own belongings, and left voluntarily after you told him you were spending the night with another man." He closed his notepad. Case closed without ever opening it. This isn't a missing person case. This is a marital dispute. But he just vanished. She would have whined. He left. There's a difference. Beautiful poetry. I almost wish I could have been there to see her face fall when the system refused to bend to her victim routine. 3 months slid by. She hired a private investigator, probably the trench coat and binoculars type, who found nothing. No credit card swipes, no phone activity, no Instagram stories of new beginnings. Jonathan Spencer had ghosted with surgical precision, and that's the punchline, isn't it? The man who sacrificed everything for her so-called love erased himself so thoroughly. It was like I'd never existed. But here's the twist. I wasn't hiding. I was rebuilding. Jonathan Spencer, the safe choice, the bill payer, the reliable background character. He died the night he walked out of Murphy's Steakhouse. The man who stepped off that plane in Denver was someone else entirely. Henry Morgan was waiting at the airport, firm handshake, knowing eyes. "You look like hell," he said. "But you're here. That's what matters." And just like that, I had a lifeline. The first assignment hit immediately, photographing Frank Gehry's latest creation downtown. My hands shook when I pulled the camera out of its case. For years since I'd last done this professionally, for years of spreadsheets and deadlines instead of light and angles. But the second I peered through the lens, muscle memory took over. The world stilled, the building curved, the sky opened, and somewhere deep in me, a voice I thought I'd lost came roaring back. My voice. "These shots are incredible," Henry said later, flipping through the images. "Where has this talent been hiding?" I just smiled, biting down the truth. Some wounds are too raw to explain. Week after week, more assignments poured in. Luxury hotels in Aspen, magazine spreads on sustainable buildings in Portland, corporate headquarters in San Francisco. Not the cubicle farms where dreams go to die, but the glossy tech kind where everyone drinks kombucha and pretends beanbags are furniture. They needed an artist's eye to capture their vision. Translation: make their overpriced Lego set of glass and steel look like the Taj Mahal. Fine by me. Their money was green and my camera didn't judge. I threw myself into the work with the hunger of a man making up for lost time. 18-hour days became normal. My tiny Denver apartment started to look like a NASA storage unit. Cameras stacked like rocket launchers, lenses lined up like artillery, lighting rigs jammed into every corner, tools of the trade I'd abandoned for domestic tranquility, translation folding laundry while she planned date night with Travis. But work alone wasn't enough. Obsession needed company. So I enrolled in evening classes at the University of Colorado. Business management, digital marketing, investment strategies. The whole buffet of never get blindsided again courses. If I was rebuilding my life, I'd build it properly this time. Steel beams, not drywall. And the gym, that place became my second home. The soft body Rachel had grown so comfortable with. Gone. Replaced with lean muscle and the kind of endurance that made me a regular on Denver's mountain trails. The man who used to collapse in bed exhausted from spreadsheets now ran marathons for fun. Fun. Who even was I? 6 months after disappearing, I launched my company, Summit Architectural Photography. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? My first client was a resort chain expanding across the western U.S. The contract, worth more than my entire yearly salary back at the Atlanta firm. When the check cleared, I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my protein shake. Henry watched the whole transformation like a man observing a caterpillar crawl out of a chrysalis, holding a camera and a tax-deductible gym membership. "You're becoming someone completely different," he told me one night over drinks. "No," I corrected him. "I'm becoming who I was supposed to be before I met her." I never said Rachel's name anymore. She was just her, like Voldemort with better highlights. A distant memory filed away with old tax returns and IKEA instruction manuals. And the recognition? Oh, it came fast. Architectural Digest featured my work. The American Institute of Architects invited me to speak at their annual conference because nothing screams revenge body like a keynote and a slideshow. Major firms across the country started bidding for my services, and I got to play the fun new game called How Much Can I Charge Before They Flinch? Spoiler, a lot. Meanwhile, my personal life decided to reboot itself too. Samantha, a geology professor at the university, caught my attention during a lecture about get this sustainable building materials. Unlike Rachel, Samantha didn't want a housebroken version of me. She didn't need me neutered and sat on the couch like some suburban lapdog. No, she challenged me. She questioned my decisions, pushed me to take bigger risks, and actually celebrated my ambitions instead of clipping their wings. When I told her I was thinking about opening a studio, she didn't blink. She leaned in, smirked, and said, "About time. You're playing too small." Imagine that. Someone who didn't confuse ambition with arrogance, revolutionary. Exactly 1 year after I disappeared, I pulled the trigger. I'd marked the calendar like a twisted anniversary gift to myself. A FedEx envelope, Denver return address, delivered to her doorstep on a Monday afternoon. Divorce papers, no letter, no explanation. Just my signature where it mattered in blank spaces where hers belonged. Clinical, precise, a scalpel, not a hammer. I could almost hear her reaction, somewhere in that Atlanta McMansion, the gasp, the trembling hands. The sudden realization that Jonathan Spencer wasn't waiting in the corner like a loyal golden retriever. No anger, no drama, just done. That night, while she apparently cried into a glass of wine at Murphy's Steakhouse, our old booth, of course, because poetic irony is undefeated. I was having sushi in Denver with Samantha, listening to her explain plate tectonics like it was a TED Talk on seduction. Trust me, it was better than crying over a $12 Merlot. Year 1 became year 2. My company expanded like wildfire. I hired assistants, opened a studio, started mentoring young photographers who thought rule of thirds was some ancient curse. The man who once thought success meant mowing the lawn on Saturday without missing a spot was now building an empire. My bank account swelled, my reputation soared, and my confidence radiated from everything I touched, every photograph I captured, every presentation I delivered, every mountain I conquered on weekend hikes. I didn't just rebuild, I upgraded. Jonathan 2.0. Now with abs and a 6-figure retainer fee. 3 years after that night I disappeared, the universe decided to serve dessert. Rachel, poor, abandoned Rachel, sat in the grand ballroom of Atlanta's Omni Hotel, picking at her salmon dinner during the Environmental Architecture Foundation's annual gala, the social event of the season. 500 of Atlanta's most influential people had crammed themselves into the Omni Ballroom, all congratulating each other on saving the planet while sipping champagne that cost more than a month's rent. Architects, developers, philanthropists, basically everyone who wanted to be seen being seen. And me, I was the night's crown jewel. Rachel had slithered her way in as the +1 of Raymond Hughes, a real estate developer who thought sustainable building meant putting fake plants in a lobby. Cute? Then the MC grabbed the mic. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, the visionary behind Summit Architectural Photography, and this year's recipient of the Innovation and Sustainable Design Award, Jonathan Spencer." Oh, the timing was divine. I couldn't have scripted it better if Spielberg himself directed the evening. From across the room, I heard the clink of crystals shattering. Rachel's wine glass. I didn't even have to look. The sound alone was enough. I walked on stage anyway, slow, deliberate, like a man who knew he belonged there. The suit tailored, black, razor sharp. The body underneath. Let's just say gym memberships pay dividends. My hair was cropped, styled like I'd just stepped out of a GQ spread, and my eyes, hard, focused, predatory. The applause hit like thunder, but all I caught, just for a second, was her face. Mouth open, pale as hospital paint, hands trembling. The audience saw a rising star. She saw a ghost. I took the microphone and let my voice carry. 3 years ago, I learned something profound about human nature. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are when they think it doesn't matter. Out of the corner of my eye, Raymond leaned toward her, whispering like a concerned chaperone. "You look pale. Are you all right?" She didn't answer. Couldn't. Her chest was heaving like she'd just run a marathon she wasn't trained for. I continued, calm, steady, the room hanging on every word. Betrayal has a unique power. It strips away everything you thought you knew about yourself, about what you're capable of, about what you deserve. For some people, betrayal destroys them. For others, it becomes the foundation for something extraordinary. The presentation screen behind me lit up like a cathedral window, my work 20 feet high, glowing for the entire ballroom to worship. Skyscrapers sliced the skyline, glass and steel monuments bathed in golden light. Every image stamped with my new gospel, Spencer Studios, Denver, not Atlanta, not hers, mine. When everything you've built your life around crumbles, I said, pacing the stage like I owned it, you have two choices. You can spend your energy trying to rebuild the same mediocre existence. I let that hang there just long enough for her to feel it like a knife. Or you can use that destruction as fertile ground for something unprecedented. The crowd? Hooked, eyes wide, leaning forward in their tuxedos and sequin dresses. They thought I was Moses descending from the mountain with a DSLR. Rachel, though Rachel looked like she'd seen a ghost who had better lighting. Transfixed, frozen, the poor woman couldn't decide whether to faint or applaud. Success isn't about avoiding failure, I went on. It's about transforming failure into fuel. Thunder, not applause, thunder. Every hand in the room clapped like I'd just cured climate change with a camera lens. I smiled, not the sweet, soft grin she once took for granted, but something sharper, a smile with teeth. I left the stage, applause trailing behind me like an obedient dog. My eyes swept the crowd one last time, and then I found her, Rachel, 3 years older, but not wiser. Her face was pale, desperate, pleading. I looked right through her. She wasn't a person anymore, not to me, just background noise. Then I was gone, into the swell of admirers, colleagues, business partners. Hands reached for handshakes, flutes of champagne shoved in my direction, praise pouring over me. I moved through it all with the calm stride of a man who knew he owned the world. Behind me, I could feel her scrambling, leaving poor Raymond mid-sentence, heels clattering on the marble like a fire alarm. She cut through gala clusters, chasing me into the lobby. By the time she caught up, I was already at the valet stand. My Tesla Model S waited under the hotel lights, sleek, polished, humming like a silent punchline. "Jonathan," she gasped. I turned, slowly, deliberately, and gave her nothing. No anger, no softness, no recognition, just a calm, unreadable face. Up close, I could see the horror in her eyes, the way she scanned me, head to toe, like she was still trying to find her old Jonathan buried under the suit and the confidence. Spoiler, he was gone, cremated, buried under 3 years of grind and success. This wasn't the soft man who used to quietly pay for her wine while she rehearsed her betrayal in her head. No, this Jonathan had been upgraded, new operating system, titanium casing, and absolutely no tolerance for malware. "Rachel," my voice came out flat, not warm, not cold, just factual, like reading a grocery list. To me, she was a stranger, some vaguely familiar face who'd been left behind in a neighborhood I didn't visit anymore. "Hi, I need to explain," she stammered, wringing her hands like she was begging for a late assignment extension. I raised an eyebrow, adjusting my cufflinks because why waste the moment? "Explain what?" "You explained everything. Perfectly 3 years ago." "I made a mistake," she blurted out. Her voice cracked, desperate, dramatic. "The biggest mistake of my life. I was stupid and selfish, and I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. I know that now." I studied her face like an architect reviews blueprints for a condemned building, detached, clinical, noting the flaws without a single urge to fix them. "You're right," I said, letting the silence stretch just long enough for her hope to flicker. You did throw away the best thing that ever happened to you. Her eyes widened, like maybe there was a chance I was talking about myself, that this was the setup for some tragic, romantic reconciliation. Poor thing. I leaned in slightly, dropped my voice so she caught every syllable, but I wasn't talking about me. Her face crumpled. That one landed. I could see it hit harder than if I'd raised my voice, harder than if I'd listed every cruel detail of her betrayal. A scream might have given her something to push back against. This was just precision demolition. And then, before she could even regroup, the Tesla's passenger door opened. Out stepped Samantha, tall, confident, wearing a black dress so clean and lethal it could have been a weapon. Graceful, strong, radiant, and that way you don't buy from a salon. You earn it by never needing to beg anyone to stay. "Ready to go?" she asked, slipping her hand into mine like it belonged there. Which, of course, it did. Almost. I gave Rachel one last look. Nothing soft, nothing lingering, just final. This is Samantha Morgan, my business partner and fiancée. Samantha, this is Rachel, someone I used to know. The dismissal was casual, almost lazy. And that, right there, hit her harder than any screaming match could have. "The best thing that happened to you," I said, my voice steady. Final, like a judge delivering a sentence with no appeal, was learning exactly who you are when you think it doesn't matter. She flinched. Good. I wasn't done. That knowledge set you free to live authentically. I almost chuckled at my own wording. Authentically selfish, authentically reckless. And it set me free to find someone who sees ambition as attractive rather than threatening. Right on cue, Samantha squeezed my hand. Just that. No clawing, no desperate grip, no performance. A simple squeeze, the kind of gesture that said, "I've got you, but you're still your own man." Partnership, not possession. Funny how rare that is. Rachel opened her mouth again, and I could see the apology cocktail mixing, half regret, half desperation, full of calories nobody needs. I cut her off. "I forgave you a long time ago, Rachel, but the man who needed your apology." I adjusted my jacket and met her eyes, letting the knife sink in. "He died the night you walked out of that restaurant." Her face drained, and I swear for a second I thought she might collapse right there onto the valet carpet. Instead, she just stared, searching for cracks that weren't there. I turned to Samantha, opened her door, because yes, I'm old school like that, and also because it made the symbolism that much sweeter. Then I slid into my side. I gave Rachel one last look, not cruel, just clinical. I hope you find what you're actually looking for someday, which, given her track record, was probably the dessert menu. The Tesla pulled away in silence, as smooth and unbothered as I was. In the rear view, I saw her standing there under the hotel's bright lights, alone, while Atlanta's elite streamed past her toward lives she'd never touch again. The red tail lights disappeared into the night, carrying me forward, carrying her regret backward. And for the first time, I realized she finally understood something I'd known for years. Some choices don't get second chances. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.